This is your Chargers linebacker, Daiyan, Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Daiyan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. This is your first time tuning into the show. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Daiyan Wolkenstein, as you can see, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I am wearing black because it is the color of my soul today. Yesterday was a tough pill to swallow for Chargers fans everywhere. Sunday night football, prime time in a very up and down contested game that had a lot of question marks as it relates to the Chargers. Like they normally do with the Kansas City Chiefs, everything is closely fought till the bitter end. And unfortunately, it was a bitter pill to swallow after watching the DOINK for the division go in for the Kansas City Chiefs as they knock off the Los Angeles Chargers 19-17. Dan and I want to obviously get into everything. We have a lot of voicemails to answer on the Chargers Unleashed hotline. Now, Dan did an instant reaction last night following the game, but we have to get into where do you go from here? What does this mean for this Chargers team? What does it mean with the remaining games left as it remains or as it relates to the Chargers playoff chances? So let's break it all down. Dan Wolkenstein, I don't think that your soul has been cleansed since last night. I know mine sure hasn't, and I know a lot of people's hasn't, but somehow we got to pick ourselves up. It's Monday, December 9th, and we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the horizon, and we need to move on.
We need to move on. We're on to Tampa Bay, but we're not. They are. We are still going through, I think, some of our feelings. We have a lot of voicemails to go through here. Again, if you have not done so already, enjoy the fun. Enjoy the festivities. You can call into the hotline at 323-902-7586 and leave a 30-second voicemail with your reaction, your predictions, your feelings, your questions, and we'll do our best to get them all. We have like 11 or 12.
Is it really that much?
Yeah, people are not. I honestly did a favor. I actually did myself a favor this time, and I didn't listen to any of it. I just downloaded, uploaded, and immediately going to go through this live with you. So I have no idea how this is going to go.
Translation, anybody who's watching this show, be prepared for anything if that's the case.
I'll call you Scar for now.
Dan has not pre-screened these. Holy hell, this could get interesting.
Yes. Dark Samus 100. $1.99 donation. Thank you so much. Matt Money Smith once said, go all in on offense. Well, we'll talk about that. A lot of folks saying hello. A lot of folks going here saying they need Mack and Tuli to play together, and Bosa and Bud Dupree. Yeah, that was a good look. You saw this Chargers team with the NASCAR package, and those guys are moving. That defensive line showed pressure, and that was good. Jake, I think there's a lot of things at the top to kind of go through here before we get to the feelings and voicemails to kind of let those set the stage. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer those. Before we go through, I guess, our big rocks before leading into the voicemail, let's pay the bills. Let's talk about our friends.
I want to remind everybody that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. You think you know your stuff? Get in our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every single week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of up to $200K. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get on a game of blackjack or poker on one with one of our 150 slot games. Head on over to the website today. That's betonline.ag to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
A lot of reactions and recap takeaways from this. Let's do our first voicemail, and then Jake, let's kick off kind of our big takeaways from this game. First voicemail, again, no pre-screening. Lord help us. Here we go.
What a Chargers way to lose.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a great way to start. Sums it up perfectly. Anything else we want to talk about today? Are we all done?
The evil, sinister laugh before the quote pretty much sums it up. However, you know what? However way you want to, if you want to look at it as just another way for the Chargers to lose, how about another way for the Chiefs to win? That's how I'm looking at it. Because this black voodoo magic, Kali Ma, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom crap that has gone on for the past 5 weeks or so, you're sick of seeing it, because I've said it to Dan. If you took a fraction of the luck that this Chiefs team has had over the last decade, you gave it to the Cleveland Browns, they'd have a Super Bowl. No question about it. No question about it. And you're not going to get anybody from their fan base telling you otherwise, because they embrace it. They know what it's about. When you're this used to winning, they don't give a crap anymore. So say it however you will. This goes into, though, what Dan and I were talking about leading up to this week against the Chiefs. Close games do not beat this team. They just don't. You have to stay aggressive. You have to put them away. You literally have to knock them out. And in the moments that Jim Harbaugh likes to talk about in terms of be your best when your best was needed, on that final drive, things fell apart. From the Cameron Dicker kickoff to the defensive selections and the packages that they were in, trust me, there were a number of mistakes that were made throughout the game. But in a time where the Chargers had the lead and needed to stop or needed to force a field goal with time still on the clock, they were not able to do that. And that's just what's needed to beat this team. I know it's annoying as hell to say 9 AFC division championships for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know it's annoying as hell to talk about back-to-back Super Bowls and their quest for a three-peat that they're currently on right now. And I know everybody is frustrated as anybody to see the way that they win games and that no other team gets as fortunate as they do. But this is the type of crap that you have to overcome. So anybody who wants to talk about the officiating, I get it, but I don't want to hear it.
No.
Because you should expect that going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. When you have Chris Collinsworth repeatedly talking about on the broadcast, Jawan Taylor is actually doing a false start, but might as well just keep doing it until the officials talk about it. When it's that mainstream, you just already have to expect it. So what are you going to do to overcome it? And that's what it's about, because you have to overcome more elements than any other team that you go up against when you play against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's just the long and the short about it.
Whew.
Sorry, Dan. I didn't get a chance to come on here with you last night, so maybe that was my first.
Do you feel better?
No. We still have about another hour of this. So if that was the first reaction, we might be in trouble.
I like the hat, by the way.
Thank you.
I like that. Is that a lightning bolt? What is that from?
It's actually grit, is what it says.
Ah,
yes. And no, it is not a Detroit Lions hat for some people who may be thinking about it.
Okay.
But it is actually True Grit. That is the clothing brand. My other hat that I normally wear on the show, same brand.
Noted. Okay. I'll be honest. I'm still not sure if I am beside myself infuriated by what just happened, or if I have already accepted and have come to terms with the reality. I know we want to talk about the black magic voodoo stuff, and it's there, sure. Chargers let it happen. I know we want to talk about all the luck and all that kind of stuff. Chargers let a lot of that stuff happen. People want to bitch about the officiating. Miss me with that. Officiating was not the reason they lost this game. Even with the Jawan Taylor stuff. We have said it once. We'll say it 1,000 times. In order to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team, you have to play largely mistake-free football.
Perfect.
Parentheses. Especially at the biggest moments. And every little thing matters. And unfortunately, there were some little things the Chargers did that mattered greatly in this game. And it costed the team victories. At least a victory yesterday. Were they huge? No. But when the margin of error is that tiny, when you're going up against the juggernaut that is Mahomes and company, you just can't do that. You just can't do that. You can't give them another avenue for success. And it wasn't a costly turnover. It wasn't, and even this game, this is probably what's most unfortunate.
It was a clean game.
They had played a clean game. It was sloppy in the first half for sure on offense, especially, which we'll get to. But it's the little things that matter against this Chiefs team. And the Chiefs will almost always do the little things right, especially when it matters most. And the Chargers simply did not. And they could not rise to the challenge in the biggest moments. Biggest moments. I'm talking third down on defense. Multiple times you had Patrick Mahomes dead in the water. Either he scrambles away because of lack of discipline from your linebackers who are spying. He evades a sack or 2 or 3. Lack containment. Scrambles for a first down. Pump fakes Daiyan Henley out of his shoes instead of Daiyan just staying put. Daiyan reacts. Daiyan misses a sack at the very end of that game. Lost opportunities. We talk about the Josh Palmer miss by Justin Herbert. And yes, we can say it. Justin Herbert missed a golden opportunity there. And the next play, another opportunity missed. Darius Davis was wide open. I think the Chiefs called a cover 0 blitz. Chargers couldn't execute. Cameron Dicker, huge spot at the end of the game. Again, talk about specific spots you got to execute. No small mistakes, especially against this team. Don't give them opportunities to let the black magic voodoo stuff happen. Cameron Dicker gives them the ball at the 40-yard line. Chargers never got the ball back. The drive the Chargers had at the end of that game took too long. They needed to be about 2 minutes too short. 2 minutes shorter. And again, these are little things. These are little things in order to overcome going up against the juggernaut that is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Spags on defense and Trent McDuffie and Arrowhead and all the black magic and the refs, whatever you want to call it. Then you don't have Ladd McConkey. You're without a bunch of chips were stacked against them. They should not have won that game going into it, especially with Ladd McConkey. And they made a valiant effort. But the truth of the matter is, the team who executed best at the most important times of that game won. And as infuriating and as pissed off as I am to acknowledge that, that's why the Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Chargers probably win that game against 30 other teams in the NFL. But that's the Chiefs. No, I'm not going to let the excuses fly. The Chargers just didn't execute, and they got beat by a guy who is absolute God mode in the fourth quarter. But you let it happen. Coaching was there, man. Coaching put those guys in position, and the players just didn't execute. And so that's the dichotomy. It's infuriating because you see the formula. That was a winning formula, even with the trash offense in the first half. They had a lead in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left and change. Couldn't shut the door, and the lack of execution was what crippled it. So, a bit long-winded, still infuriating. There were some silver linings. There were some positive developments in that game, but that's the short of it for me. Like, we could talk about the black magic. We could talk about the rest. We could talk about if you ask the Chargers players, if you ask the Chargers coaches, they know they let it slip away. And that's what hurts. But like Chargers fans have been saying for seemingly decades now, same old story. And were we not all, once it got to the 3-minute mark, we're like, well, here we go. It's inevitable. The Chiefs are inevitable if you let them. And that's what happened. And so you tip your cap. That's what they do best. They've had all the luck of the world. You hope that, some of that stuff goes away. Sure, they hit the upright still goes in, but like that's a chip shot field goal. I think we all thought that was going in automatically. So is what it is. Jake, any other like big overarching takeaways before we get to comments, voicemails, etc.?
Here's where I'll start to transition a little bit. Chargers make a run in the playoffs. I want to go to Arrowhead again. Most likely that's where everybody's going to have to go anyways, given where we are at this point of the season. I want to go to Arrowhead again.
Yeah.
And like I said, I want this to feel similar in the way that when you have certain division rivals and they end up meeting each other again in the playoffs, and they always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times. in a single season. And look, I'm not going to stand up here and say that it would be a foregone conclusion that if the Chargers met the Chiefs again in the playoffs, that they would win, especially for the reasons that I just rattled off, because it's going to be just as big of a monster to overcome. And most likely by that time, they'll flip the switch and they'll look more efficient offensively, and it'll be a bigger hurdle to climb. But at the same time, Dan, you ask yourself, what if, a lot of these times, specifically based off of the difference that we saw in this team from one half to the other. But I don't want to get into what ifs because they don't play on Sundays, and what's done is done. But I feel that, especially when we're talking about some of these coaching revelations and things that would have been done differently, Jim Harbaugh has found his Ohio State in the NFL. Strangely enough, they wear the same colors. But he has found his Ohio State in the NFL, and he has to figure out a way to beat them. And honestly, if the Chargers get into the playoffs and they make a run, I want to go at them again. And let's see how different it looks.
I will say, and let's get to some of the voicemails and comments here. Jake, it was pretty dire going into halftime. 13-0. Just give out a touchdown. People were ready to pack it in. And I tweeted out right as halftime started, I said, this is a big boy second half moment for this Chargers team. How do they respond with Jim Harbaugh? And boy, did they. That offense came out, first drive, methodical, touchdown. Chargers defense immediately forces a punt. Chargers offense, methodical, touchdown. They're up 14-13. After all of the negativity, after all of the subpar performances and missed opportunities and everything that went with it, they were still battling back through adversity with that grit, those stalwarts that Jim Harbaugh likes to talk about, and they found a way. And Justin Herbert led that team back, put on the Superman cape a bit, and made it happen. Was he perfect in that game? No. But he was damn good. And did he miss a throw or two? Sure. Mahomes did too. No one's going to talk about it because he won. Quarterbacks miss throws every now and then. Like, that happens. But Justin Herbert is the only reason why this team is even close. Also, as much as the offense struggled early, Jake, I think we have to discuss the receiving core. I thought stepped up in a large way yesterday. Now, silver lining, sure. Quentin Johnston made the toughest catch I've ever seen him make, by far. In the middle field, getting smoked, holds on to it, no alligator arms. Josh Palmer shows up. You and I talked about this being a Josh Palmer game. Josh Palmer showed up. No Ladd McConkey. This team had nobody that people were counting on. And these guys stepped up. Stone Smart stepped up. Huge catches. The offensive tackles for the Chargers, both of them, amazing. This wasn't enough. And it wasn't like they were bad. Again, like, this is the tough part against going against the Chiefs, is you can play almost a perfect game, but it's not enough. And that's just the reality. Jake, Thomas Hawley, $10 donation. Appreciate you, Thomas. Positive and negatives from the game, but I still believe we could still win out and finish 12-5. Not bad for a rebuild, retooling year. Still missing some pieces. Bolt up for life. Again, Thomas, thank you. Perspective there, Jake. So
this is on the idea that the Chargers are going to win out to the remainder of their games this year, which not impossible. Not impossible. You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this coming week, who just got word today that they're not going to be with they're going to be without Antoine Winfield for a few weeks due to a knee injury. So that's big, especially for them in their secondary. After that, you have the Denver Broncos, which in reality, to me, the next 2 weeks have to be must wins in order for you to really feel good about the playoffs. Truly. Mm-hmm. After that, it's the Patriots, it's the Raiders, games that the Chargers should ultimately win. But these next 2 weeks are must-win situations. There is no losing in either one of the scenarios.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think they got to get to 10.
I understand they have to get to 10, but I'm looking at
They
it
got to
in
win
terms
one
of
of the next two. I think they should win one of the next two.
I would look at it the other way. I think they have to win them both because of the fact that you literally are neck and neck right now with the Denver Broncos. And yes, you have the tiebreaker from beating them earlier this season, but you can't afford to drop down to that 7 seed and allow anything else to get closer to you. Dan, you were talking about it throughout Sunday afternoon. All these other teams that are in the hunt trying to climb back into the AFC playoffs, you don't want to allow it to get any closer. So to me, coming off of a loss like that, I'm coming back out with a vengeance. I understand what is necessary.
Yeah.
And to transition now back to what you were saying in terms of the second half offense that we saw, I think there's an impressive aspect of it in terms of a response and a resilience from guys that needed to step up, from guys that we haven't seen outside Ladd McConkey step up for the last several weeks. Here's my hope, Dan, is that when Ladd McConkey returns to this offense, these other players still need to make plays. It can't just go back to being Ladd McConkey is the focal point of the offense, and that there is no running game. In specific situations moving forward, especially if we're talking about a playoff push, it cannot just be Ladd McConkey. So I do not, as happy as I was to see guys like Joshua Palmer make catches in crucial situations. Obviously, you mentioned Quentin Johnston, Stone Smart stepping up in big time when Will Dissly goes out in the last play of the first half and doesn't return. You have to be able to integrate these other pieces to your offense. And when the ball is thrown to them, they have to make a catch and they have to make a play. Go out and make a play.
Make a play. Yeah, against the Chiefs, there's a lot of guys that are on islands having to make plays. And it's up to each individual player to do their job. And you can't do it 90% of the time because that 10% will kill you against the Kansas City Chiefs. Next voicemail, Jake. Again, 323-902-7586. Emotions were flying after this one. Let's hear what the next unfiltered voicemail sounds like.
Be prepared.
Oh man, if the Chargers didn't have such a slow first half, man, we could have had that one, man. It was such a winnable game. Herbert had that throw to Palmer, but I'm not sure what quite happened. We're still in there, man. We can beat the Bucs. We can beat the Broncos. You know what I'm saying? Everything's fine, man. I know there's some people that's overreacting, but I think we're good, man.
Nobody overreacts here in Chargers country.
Who?
We got
Who? Who's doing that?
Without my boy Ladidi McConkey, he still generated some offense in the second half. Obviously, it took some time to get used to the personnel. I still think we should use DJ Chark a little more, but that is what it is. Anyway, just want to say it was a good game. Still F the Chiefs. And
we are in our feelings, all of them.
Much more of a positive vibe than it was the last one. So that was nice. Good perspective. Again, this would probably feel differently if the Chargers were closer to a 500 record in terms of what it means for the rest of the season. And in relation to the DJ Chark target catch, it's like the M&Ms when they first met Santa Claus. He does exist.
He has risen. He has risen.
He does exist.
Easter in December. Yeah. It took a bit for that offense to adjust to no Ladd McConkey. And I would have wished to see Greg Roman stick with the run game a bit. There were a couple questionable calls from a coaching perspective on offense that they could have taken into account. They had that 56-yard field goal attempt. I'm not sure what the win situation was, but Cameron Dicker's made those before. Many this year. He could have kicked that. There was a 4th and 5, I believe, from like the 40-something in Kansas City territory. Could have gone for it. And you've seen going against these other teams. You saw what happened with Atlanta. You saw what happened with the Ravens. These teams go for it. Like they are aggressive and they make their own luck. And so it was great to see DJ Chark. It was great to see the guys step up too little too late, and they didn't do enough. Like, that's just the facts. Action Dan 65, Jake. $20 donation. Action Dan, thank you. Thank you. The rest is this is up your alley, Jake. And mine.
I was gonna say it's up yours too.
Up yours, Jake.
Up yours.
If Janty isn't available when we are picking in the draft, he won't be. I would be good selecting Skadibo from ASU. He's a physical running back and runs through people. Plus, it's fun to say his name. Self-proclaimed best running back in the country, by the way. From ASU.
First of all, Dan Wolkenstein, I know, did some celebrating on Saturday when his alumni, Arizona State, not only made it to the college playoff, but got a first-round bye in the college playoffs.
I don't have to do this.
But Cam Scatterboot, man, has just had a monster of a season. I liked it how I actually like the comparison that Trevor Sikkema actually put out there, and this is appropriate given the fact that the Chargers just went up against this particular running back in Isaiah Pacheco. But he just said, get yourself a running back that just runs like it's going to be his last run of all time and is just pissed off at everything. That is Cam Scatterboot. Look, this running back class this year in this draft is deep. It's impressive. There are a handful of names that I'm sure that the Chargers would look at, as Dan alluded to. I don't believe, as good of a season that Ashton Jeanty has had, that he is going to be available, even if we're talking about the Chargers making the playoffs and being somewhere between 20 and 24. I've said it many times. I've said it many times already on this show when talking about the draft. If the Dallas Cowboys pass on Ashton Jeanty, I do not know what they're doing anymore. I really do not. I know that they have a plethora of things that they need to figure out on their team. But how do you not select that? Honestly, he is worthy of that pick for sure. But just team fit,
chance
what they need. My God in heaven. But no, I just don't see Jeanty falling that far.
No way.
But you look at other running backs in the draft that are outside Scatterboot. Devin Neal out of Kansas is another guy who just runs angry to me. RJ Harvey is another guy that I know that has been his stock has been rising with a lot of people out of UCF. Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. This running back class is deep.
I like Skadibo, but first round's rich.
I don't think it's going to be a first round selection. No, not for him. But
I'm an ASU guy, by the way. So
his season's been so impressive. It's been so impressive, and he's going to be a huge benefit to anybody that selects him. You like a running back that comes in there with that type of physicality and just wanting to run people over.
You do. Overall, the defense rose to the occasion, but we talked about the little things that matter, Jake. Eddie Saldana, if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. I butcher names all the time. If Henley makes that tackle on Mahomes, then Wright misses a field goal. Probably. He also probably got 2 minutes left to go score, even if he does make it. We're talking end of game situations. Dan Henley misses the tackle. Let's say he kicks it the exact same way afterwards. Wide left. Charge get the ball. Or if he makes it, Charge get the ball, needing a field goal to score. And I like my chances with Justin Herbert at the end of that game. Justin Herbert has taken a lead in the fourth quarter against Mahomes so many times and has lost so many times.
He's done it 5 times and he's lost all 5. That's shitty.
That sucks.
Yes. Especially when we always know the reasons of the last 4 times that it's happened. You didn't have that issue essentially with this defense this year.
But what Eddie is saying is, this is kind of my point at the top. We could talk about the black magic and all that jazz. We put ourselves in that situation. They put themselves in the situation because they did not execute when they had to.
From the kickoff. They
were right there. And you got to feel for this coaching staff, man. You got to feel for Jesse Mitchell because his guys are there. Daniel Popper put out a video about a minute long that showed Derwin James against Travis Kelce. And he was amazing against Travis Kelce. But you go look at some of the other plays that happened when Derwin James was on Travis Kelce. Other guys are not doing their job. And this Chargers coach staff has them in position, and they just can't do it through the whistle. That's the difference between winning and losing versus the 2-time defending champs. Like, it's just that simple. And I know it's impossible, it's improbable to ask for perfection, but that's what they do in the most important situations of the game, especially at the end. They will not crack. And you can't either. Like, that's just where we're at. Next voicemail, before you talk about the defense, which actually I thought the defense played damn well yesterday, even with that last series that was unfortunate. Next voicemail, Jake.
Hello, it's DP Kick Rocks here. I called in last week. I was dogging on Christian Fulton. Another PI call this week. That's neither here or there. I was listening to the podcast, and there was a guy after me, and he said something really, really great that I thought. Greg Roman's at a fucking goddamn Waffle House, fucking doing whatever the fuck he's doing.
Here we go.
I mean, are you serious? Our offense is so fucking flat. Flat Stanley could be on that fucking offense. I swear to God, it's out of control. But anyways, we lost. You got to take our L. We got to get ready for next week. But it's just like, I want to know from you guys. I mean, I don't know too much about you. I've just been tuning in lately. I was like, are you guys from California? Were you San Diego Chargers fans? Like, I mean, like, how do you deal with it? I'm 26. I've been a Chargers fan since I was a kid. I was born into it. I was like, how do you deal with this shit, man? Because it's like, I think as like later ages, I feel like I'm going fucking insane. I feel like I'm losing. I feel like we're like right there, but there's like a curse. I don't know if it's the Spanos. I don't know what it is. They doink it off the fucking upright. It's insane. It's insane. I'm not even going to talk about anybody's play, man. I thought everybody did as best they can. I think we got a lot of bums out there, and we're trying to make it work. But it's just, that's neither here or there. You guys have a good day.
Oh, boy.
That might be one of the best that's ever called in to Chargers Unleashed. Whew. First of all, bless your heart, 26 years old. But you know what? You have wisdom beyond your years already, because you're already understanding and asking the question, how does this Chargers fan base deal with this? So praise to you, because you're already seeing the tea leaves. How have I dealt with it? Let's just say there is a number of gray hairs that are currently on my head that are courtesy of the Chargers over the last several years.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody deals with it in their own way. I have mine.
He's 26, but feels 66 as a Chargers. Yep.
That's pretty much it. But it feels that way, doesn't it, for a lot of us? It feels that way for a lot of us, which makes you think, again, even people that we have spoken to on this show or on social media that have been rooting for this team, even before Dan and I even existed, for crying out loud, to think about the pain and the misery that has been among this franchise in general for 26? People who have witnessed it.
26, yes. You are lucky.
Whew. But again, wisdom beyond your years, for the standpoint that you are already figuring those type of things out as it relates to being a Chargers fan. Yes, Dan and I both California natives. Yes, we were both San Diego Chargers fans. And yet we're still going to support this team, win or lose, even though that it might it might make us want to rip our collective heads off on a week-to-week basis. I can confidently say, and I can speak for Dan as well, this is probably the calmest that I have felt at this point of the season.
We're numb.
Definitely in the 5 years that Dan and I have been doing this show. But I can definitely say this is the best that I have felt since the days of Marty Schottenheimer. And this is and I'm talking about Chargers teams that had better records in this period of time, different coaches, obviously, but just didn't have the same type of culture vibe as it brings with Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, because we've now seen the results of it. We've now seen that everybody has bought into it. So you currently sit 8-5. I know last night was ugly. Ugh. And Dan and I, most people didn't predict the Chargers to win. And when we got the announcement that Ladd McConkey wasn't playing, I mean, social media just blew up and basically said, well,
We're on the Tampa.
Yep. Might as well just start thinking about next Sunday instead. It was a valiant effort given the deficiencies that you had.
And that's all it was.
The coaching that you had in the first half. The lack of plays that you had in the first half. And as Dan's about to transition to, the defense, outside of the number of mistakes that they made on that final drive, they stepped up and they kept you in it. Think about this. The Chargers, the last two times that they have played the Chiefs, have kept them to 17 and 19 points, respectively. The first time that you lost to them 17-10, Justin Herbert had a bad ankle. You didn't have your right or your left tackle. You didn't have Joey Bosa. You didn't have Derwin James. You had all those pieces back. But unfortunately, you were still missing crucial pieces like Denzel Perryman and Ladd McConkey. And you still held them to under 20 points in Arrowhead. And you nearly beat them. And I know that moral victories, when it comes to going against the Chiefs, there is no moral victories anymore. I'm sick and tired of having moral victories against this Chiefs team. But I will say this. Defensively, I thought the pass rush came to play. Khalil Mack came to play in this game. Welcome back, Cam Hart. We all have missed you with one of the best hits that I have seen anybody lay on any wide receiver all season long. Yes. That was, I mean, think about how different that game could have been at that point. Had Hopkins caught that, you're probably on the 1 yard line and the Chiefs ultimately end up scoring a touchdown anyways. It was huge. It was a huge turning point. And I thought a lot of guys stepped up defensively for this one.
Cam Hart looked good. There was somebody yesterday saying Cam Hart was trash. I was like, what are we talking about here? Like, what? Cam Hart was solid, man. Like, that's the physicality that you need. They got to steal. The fact that they got Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart in the 5th round. That is nuts. That was nuts. I feel for that voicemail caller. Come back next week. We'd love to have you. Hopefully I pray to God.
Yeah, I pray to God that they win for you.
Got a lot of people talking about their feelings.
Whew.
Pappy says, tell me, fans in 73. Eddie talks about his most heartbreaking moments. Oh, gosh, here we go. 06, AFC divisional loss to the Patriots. That one sucked. Everybody's on torn ACLs. Got LT in a hoodie. Ugh. 07, brutal. 09, Jets, DOINK. How many missed field goals for Caning? Yeah, how are we going to do this? Marlon McCree, there's so many. There's so many. The Chargers have lost trying to kneel down.
Oh, God.
Like, we've seen it all. Hey, Ray Diddle, 4th and whatever. Like, miss. Yeah. If you're 26, lucky you. Lucky you. If Dobbin plays, he wins, says HH4. Yeah, I agree. Mighty says, do you guys think Gus wants to play for our team? He seems so uninterested in playing for us. Doesn't much seem like a team guy. Maybe it's just me. What say you? Yeah, I disagree.
I think it was just the way that the game was flowing. Look, you have to remember, you're going up against one of the best run defenses in the league. And we've already talked about ad nauseum how bad the interior of this Chargers offensive line is, whether we're talking run blocking or pass protecting. It's not good. It's the weak point of your offensive line. And there were times I was even texting Dan that it felt like it took Gus Edwards just forever to even hit the line of scrimmage by the time that he was getting up there. But the reason for that is because it was getting so clogged. Whatever holes that were up there are literally just closing like that. There was nowhere for him to run to, literally. Until you ended up making some adjustments in the second half that you ended up getting positive yardage. There were some good runs from him. There were some good runs from Kamani Vidal. However, you're going to still have J.K. Dobbins out for 2 weeks. I think you need to still figure out a nice balance between the two of them, because there is a big difference between what J.K. Dobbins brought to the table and what Gus Edwards did. And that was the explosive piece. And if this is going to be your running back stable moving forward between Vidal and Edwards, you need to have that explosive piece in there. So however you're going to balance out the carries, I know Gus Edwards as of right now is your starter and he's going to get a bulk of the carries, but I'd like to see a better balance between them, because I think you're going to need that to get a productive running game going while J.K. Dobbins is out.
Mike says, I'm not just talking about this game. I'm talking about all season long. He's unhappy. I mean, he's been on IR. The guy's been hurt and has been hampered all season. And he's finally getting back, and he probably wishes he had more snaps yesterday. They lost. He's not going to be happy. But I think you heard Greg Roman talk about how much of an advantage having him and JK both in the locker room and on the field are. I don't think Gus is unhappy. I think Gus is unhappy with losing and not being healthy and not being able to perform at his level. That's what I take from it. Next voicemail, Jake, before we get to the defense, because Derwin had a game too. Derwin had a game. Next voicemail.
Chargers fan, when are you going to listen to Athir?
Third person Athir, by the way.
Third person Athir. He sounds like he's coming in here with some positivity. If he's going to try to spin this, because I remember what he was saying last week. So I can't wait to hear this. Let's hear.
When are you going to listen to me? I told everybody this is not a complete roster. I'm not frustrated about this loss. I'm not disappointed. We don't have a complete roster to compete with these juggernauts yet.
So wait, real quick. We'll let it continue. But didn't Athir have us winning like 13 games this year?
I can't remember what the season record was.
I don't remember.
Athir is the proponent, or excuse me, the lightning rod of
optimism.
Yes, consummate optimist, the lightning rod of positivity, however you want to put it. He's been there and he's made some bold predictions this year. More specifically, the Ravens game.
Next season is going to be different. Next season, the Chargers will dominate the AFC. The Chargers will be playing in the Super Bowl in 2026. I don't need to keep saying this. Listen to Athir. The roster is not complete. We are good enough to make it to the playoffs. We are good enough to win a playoff game, and that will be the end of it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so his bold prediction has been that he has been calling the Super Bowl champions in 2026. Look, I'm not knocking the optimism. I'm not saying it's possible. This is obviously what you bring Jim Harbaugh in for, and I do agree with him that in year 2 is going to be better than year 1, and year 3 will probably be better than year 2, and this will all come pairing free agents and the draft selections that you have with them. But until the day comes that somebody can prove that they can knock off that team in Kansas City, I will hold my judgment.
Jeremy L says Athir's team is trapped somewhere. Max says Athir needs to call the previous caller. Save a life. Yes. HH4. Jake, I'll let you take this one. Herbo needs to come to play for 4 quarters. He's basically one half wonder his career.
Well,
come on.
If this is putting all the blame on Justin Herbert for what happened in the first half, did you see the offensive line that was in front of him? Did you see the lack of running game that he had? And look, I get it. It's still, everything is going to be weighed against quarterbacks and what they have and what they don't have. And I don't want to stand up here making excuses, but put that offensive line or that lack of weapons with 31 other quarterbacks, and you tell me what they could do.
Yeah, I'm just going to let that one ride. Next voicemail, Jake.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Matthew. Just want to say a tough loss. I mean, of course, it always against the Chiefs. What do you expect? It is what it is. I mean, the first half was miserable. I thought they were going to get blown out. But I'm proud of this team in the second half and for pulling off almost a win, but so close, of course, again. If I'm going to be honest right now, I'm going to have to say this. I feel like Jim Harbaugh, like, I have some questions what he was doing basically just for the end of the game. I understand why was he calling timeouts before the 2-minute warning. It didn't really make sense, but I don't know. Anyways, it is with a win-win. But I gotta also say, Chip Hickens, I can't stand him watching the game. I watch him on the TV. It's irritating, you know. I can't wait for him to be gone next year. But anyways, let's learn from this game. Let's both up. Thank you.
You're going up against Chris Jones.
Yeah, they pretty much just had Chris Jones on Trey Pipkins all game long. And every single snap, you could see what the result was.
And again, when you have Joe Alt and you have Rashawn Slater, you know where they're going. They're not going to them. So, yeah. Is he as good as those two? No. It's going to be tough. I mean, they clearly know where the weak link is. It's not on the outside. HH4 says Mahomes had a worse offensive line.
When his first Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, what's his interior of his offensive line look like now? I think it looks pretty damn good.
Arguably the best in the NFL. I know they have a left tackle problem, right tackle, whichever one it was. But if you got one of them, you're good.
Yeah.
And
when all three of your interior is playing bad, it's pretty damn hard to overcome that.
Yep. He mentioned the clock. I don't know. I think they were damned if they do, damned if they don't. Didn't really matter when they called the timeouts, if it was before or after 2-minute warning. Still needed it. So, I don't know. Mighty says, most coaches call timeout before the 2-minute warning in that situation. Nothing wrong with that. Either way, you got to stop the first down. Yeah, that's really it. Pipkins and Zion gone next year. Jake, what do you think?
I think at least one of them is gone next year. I'll say that. Like I've said, I do not, and I know that we've gotten even questions here in the chat as far as reinforcing the offensive line. 100%, it's going to get reinforced. It needs to get reinforced. Thankfully, you've already got your bookend tackles. You've solved that problem. When are you going to do it? I feel like it's more likely that the Chargers will address the guard or the center position in free agency because, yes, you have some solid guards for this draft class, but it's top heavy. It's not that deep. Same goes with the center class. Center class between this year and last year, it's polar opposite in terms of some of the names that you have at the top of the list and how deep last year's class was. If you're going to address the center position in the draft, great, but you're probably not going to do that until the middle to the late rounds at the very least. So I would say that if you're going to address and reinforce this offensive line, first and foremost, it's going to be in free agency.
Next voicemail, again, call to the Chargers Unleashed hotline, 323-902-7586. Do our best to get you on the show. Jake, next one, let's hear some feelings.
Hey, guys. Definitely in the fields. That was a rough game.
Oh, boy.
You know, sick and tired of all of that going to the Chiefs. Just they keep getting lucky and lucky every season, every game this year. There's so much we could have changed, but so many positives to come out of that game. You know, offense, you know, we got some weapons. You know, think about it. We were 5 wins last season. And this year, our main weapons go down on offense or on defense. Other guys step up. Looking good for the playoffs. Let's at least win one. My question to you guys, what do you think the odds are of us hanging on to Jesse Minter for at least one more season? All the rumbles and talk around the league is that he's going to get interviews, but do you think he goes, or do you think he sticks around with Harbaugh for at least one more season? Imagine one more season with Minter and Harbaugh and Roman getting the weapons they need in that defense. We're close, guys. We're close.
I like the positivity.
Great
there.
voicemail.
I like
Great
the positivity there. I really do. As far as keeping Jesse Minter, as of right now, I think the only shot of it, okay, let's go percentages. I'll give it a 5% chance he stays. And you're hoping for a Ben Johnson type of moment last year where Ben Johnson was the coveted coordinator that everybody thought that he was definitely getting a head coaching job, and he pulled the U-turn and he ends up staying with the Detroit Lions. I hope, because of the relationship that he has had with Jim Harbaugh for so long, that there's something there. And depending obviously on how this season plays itself out, let's just say if the Chargers end up making a pretty good run in the playoffs, if something's there, that you get to have him for one more season. But this turnaround that Jesse Minter has done with this defense,
Crazy.
It's so unbelievably well done to take it from what it was to turn it into the number one defense in terms of points allowed per game. The sack rates are up. The pressure rates are up. For literally almost in every single category that you could think possible, the Chargers have moved the needle in the other direction. And that's because a collective effort of mainly Jesse Minter, but Steve Klingscale in the secondary as well.
I was going to say
other positional coaches like Mike Elston along the defensive line that came over from Michigan.
Chris Beatty, Navarro Bowman.
I mean, everybody has just done such a good job in this turnaround for that side of the ball. I just don't see how you keep him. I wish I could say that I'm wrong, but my chances for it are slim to none at best, because you better believe everybody has taken notice of what Jesse Minter has done.
How long have we said that about Ben Johnson, though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping that you get a moment like last year. I'm hoping you get that
the year
moment.
before.
I don't think he was as coveted as the year before.
I mean,
last year was his peak. The year before, it did not have that much hype behind it. But when they actually made a deep playoff run, and Ben Johnson comes out and says, I understand what it is that we're building here. I love being here, and I want to stay here, and I want to win. And now you've parlayed that into what the Detroit Lions are now today. You're hoping for that type of a situation. I just don't know if we're going to get it.
You still got Mike Vrabel. You still got Bill Belichick out there. A part of me, and this is the eternal optimist speaking, but just looking at the way these men are built and the character they have, like, a part of me feels like they've got this agreement of like, let's give this thing 2 years regardless. Like, let's give this an honest try. You know, Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter have been tied to the hip. Jesse Minter came here because of Jim Harbaugh. Unfinished business, whatever you want to call it. We'll get there. I hope to all things holy, Minter stays. But they are in good hands regardless, because, look, Jesse Minter talked about how he and Steve Klingscale are like the same person, are always on the same mindset. Klingscale is probably the next DC.
Yes.
That's where I'm putting my money at. But we'll see. Robert Saleh. Does Robert Saleh replace Jesse Minter?
No. Steve Klingscale.
Let's see. Mack says, we need some Aether thinking right now. Light that candle. Yes. Maybe Harbaugh retires. Minter takes over. Harbaugh limping last night and his health scare earlier. I hope he doesn't retire. I hope he's good.
We need 4 more years of Harbaugh. Come on.
Yeah.
we can't have that.
Yes. Next voicemail on the hotline.
Hi guys, I just have a quick comment. I guess a question: why did Jim Harbaugh punt the ball instead of opting for the 56-yard field goal attempt? I think that coaching decision was extremely indefensible. I think that might have been one of the worst coaching decisions he's made so far. You just can't leave points out there. Anyways, thanks. Bye.
56-yard field goal attempt. There were some people talking last night that there were some talks of there being like wind gusts that may have come around. I don't know. I didn't hear that. But again, you're talking field position. If you miss it, which again, I know this is Dicker and he's made almost all of them, but if you miss it, that's like a gimme 3 points essentially for the Chiefs. Yes, that 3 points would help. It's risk reward. You see other teams who are more aggressive and take that risk.
Jim Harbaugh even alluded to it in the press conference. There's a handful of plays that he wants back after that one. I'm sure if he could go back and do it all over again, whether it was that situation with Cameron Dicker or the kickoff situation that he talked about, or that last drive of Kansas City, their man coverage and defense on that final play that ultimately ended up converting to Travis Kelce. I know that wasn't his call. That was Jesse Minter's call. But there's a handful of plays that I guarantee you that he would want back. The good thing is about Jim Harbaugh is that he rarely makes the same mistake twice. He actually does learn from his mistakes, which is more than we can say from a lot of head coaches that have held this position.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably would have liked to see them kick it, honestly, but I get why they didn't. Like, I get it. That's tough. Jake, let's keep rolling with these voicemails. We've got 4 more. We've got maybe about 15 minutes left. Let's see if we can get through these. Next voicemail, the Chargers Unleashed hotline. Folks, we're in their feelings after this loss.
Hello, Jake and Dan. This is Action Dan. And
Action Dan! Hey! Hold on a second. Action Dan, are you the one that gave us Action Dan $20 holla? Hey! Thank you. Oh, can't wait for this one. All right. Let's hear it.
yeah, it sucks that we lost to a division rival on prime time. But I didn't really think we were going to win this one anyway. I mean, I have to keep reminding myself where we were last year. Last year at this time, we were 5-8 and on our way to lose the next 4 games. We still had Brandon Staley as a head coach, Tom Telesco as a general manager. We had Easton Stick as our starting quarterback, and our defense was probably one of the worst in the NFL. So, and we fast forward to this year, here we are 8-5, with 90% chance of making the playoffs. We have Jim Harbaugh as our head coach, Jim Ortiz as our general manager, and of course Justin Herbert is playing his butt off right now. Yeah, it's a good time to be a Charger fan, you know, and honestly, what this is going to be Jim Harbaugh's worst roster as a Charger head coach. So yeah, first time caller, long time subscriber. I think I ran a little long. Sorry about that. I'm out.
It's all good.
You are worth it, Action Dan. Thank you. Love the positivity. And perspective is a hell of a drug, isn't it, Jake?
Perspective is a hell of it. It's very timely, Dan. Do you recall that we are 5 days away, literally 5 days away from the 63-21 debacle against the Las Vegas Raiders that seemingly changed this franchise 1 year ago?
Whoa.
5 days away from that. Perspective is a lot of stuff. And I remember what you and I felt that night just a year ago. I remember what this fan base felt just a year ago. And I damn sure remember what this fan base was feeling when the announcement came down the day after that game of what took place. I damn sure remember it. But perspective is everything. And 1 year can change a lot, especially when you replace it with a Jim Harbaugh and a Joe Ortiz. So look how far we've come in just a year.
Look, you could look at this both ways, right? Like, the Chargers shot themselves in the foot with some costly miscues and missed opportunities and deer in the headlight moments where they just couldn't stay calm, cool, collected. And that's across the board. But also, remember where this team was starting the year. Remember what our expectations were going into the season. Remember what you predicted this game going to be anyways. Remember who was and was not playing.
Almost got the prediction correct.
I know. I was 2 point. I had a 2-point victory loss. Correct.
I hate it, but yeah.
Yeah. Love it. But yeah, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And honestly, the part that is the part that I think is intriguing covering this team is, Jim Harbaugh hasn't relied once. That's not true. He may have had some fibs talking about injuries and things that he doesn't want reporters to know and just doesn't want to talk about. But in terms of like the things he says regarding this team and their play, they always talk about the rise, the build, the plane leaving the ground, getting to 30,000 feet, the rocket ship going up. Like, the goal of this season is to be at their best and in the playoffs by the time the playoffs start. They're getting there. This defense has looked awesome for most of the season. In crucial times, sometimes, not so much. Offense needs work. You saw some improvements in that second half. You hope that can translate. You saw guys step up. You saw Gus Edwards make an imprint. You'd like to see more. You saw Quentin Johnston. You saw Josh Palmer, Stone Smart. Like, these are all developments. These are good things. And you got, a month left? Like, this is far from over.
Finish it.
This is just the beginning. I'm with you, Jake. Eddie, 1 year later, Jake, our Bolts are 8-5 to the postseason, hires Jim Harbaugh, while the Raiders are 2-11, no quarterback, lame head coach, and our old general manager, Tom Telesco.
I said it's strange things that can happen in a single season, right?
Yeah.
Which, for the Raiders' sake, they may be saying the exact same thing because as of right now, they have the number 1 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. Thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars, by the way.
Yeah, Take-a-thon is real. Take-a-thon is real for those Raiders teams. And look, I get it. They're probably, they better get a quarterback because Lord knows they need one. Jake, next voicemail. Got 3 left.
Yeah, famous fan here.
Who?
I didn't catch it.
Ooh, man, the DOINK, right? Isn't that hilarious? I mean, when has a DOINK ever gone in? But for the Chiefs, it goes in. It's pretty symbolic of their season, everything going right. Anyway, what did you guys think about that kickoff after we got that field goal that ended up being a penalty and moving to the 40-yard line with 4 minutes left? I don't know whose call that was, but for me, as a fan, that kind of made me really angry. But yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that. I thought first half offensively, unwatchable. Second half, I'm going to give it to Greg Roman. It looked great. Other than that last drive, it looked great. It was amazing to watch that third quarter offense. And lastly, I want to apologize for my profanity towards Greg Roman. I still don't love the guy, but it was an improvement in the second half at least. So, bolts up. Please tell me about the kickoff, though.
Will do. And number 1, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Look, we understand everybody's feelings as it relates to football and this franchise and everything like that. Dan and I we are not strangers to getting upset and in our feelings in any way, shape,
look at the text chain between Jake and I during a football game.
So, look, I get it. And the fact that you come on here to vent your feelings and almost use it as therapy, appreciate it. And we're here to all talk about it and get through it. That's what this is about. As far as the kickoff goes, yeah, it sounded like that was Jim Harbaugh's call, Dan. I mean, he took full responsibility for that. He was saying that Cameron Dicker ended up just, for whatever their strategy was, he said he wanted to put it at the goal line and actually, not have it be a touchback and try to make them come out so they could get them to a shorter field, given what the coverage was going to be on special teams. And it was just a botch. It reminded me, Dan, I can't remember. There was a game years ago, and it was a big time game. The Chargers had just taken the lead, and the kickoff went out of bounds. And it gave the opposing team the short field, and they lost. I can't remember what that was. That was years ago, and I can't remember who it was against. But it gave me that same type of feel. I literally texted you. I said, what the hell was that? And for Cameron Dicker, who was normally nails, it
was a field goal, so I can't.
Here's how rare a situation like that was. There has never been an illegal kick so far this season. Just so happens to happen to the Chargers in a crucial moment in the game against the best team in the league. Of course it does. Of course it does. But again, that's neither here nor there. We're not talking about the black magic. There was so many other situations to where that kick in the big picture shouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, I think he just missed. He missed it. He kicked it incorrectly. I think Jim Harbaugh said he kicked it too high on the ball. Is what it is. Again, you don't execute when it matters most. Like, the little things matter, especially at the end of games. HH4 says special teams has been bad this year. Darius Davis, almost coughed that up. I put that slide just not enough And that's okay. Like, remember, Chargers fans, like as infuriating as it is, and as close as we think we might be as a fan base watching this team, they just weren't enough. They didn't play well enough. The other team is better. And they have like the Infinity Stones, like we talked about. They've got the best quarterback, arguably, of all time right now. The best offensive play caller, possibly of all time. One of the best tight ends of all time. Probably the best defensive coordinator of the NFL right now in Spags, who has been. No idea why he's still the defensive coordinator. Talking about Jesse Minter leaving. Why isn't he leaving? Somebody take him away from the Chiefs. You got Arrowhead. You got Black Magic. Whatever. Like, it's hard to beat that. And when you're not executing, you're not winning. And I just, that's kind of where I go with the excuses stuff. I'm like, whatever. It's brutal. It's brutal. Jeremy says Greg Roman needs a legit RB and 2 legit tight ends to work. He doesn't have that with this team. Adjust to be creative with what you have. Roman was bad. I thought Roman was good in the second half. Like, you can't blame Roman in the second half. And even the first half, Justin hits that Josh Palmer touchdown. Chargers win. You blaming Greg Roman for that? He didn't throw it. Like, let's put things in context and let's just be smart and be honest about this. Like, were there things that Greg Roman can improve upon? Sure. But I don't think he's the reason why they lost that game.
No. And to your point, Dan, I thought, now remember, Will Dissly wasn't even able to play the second half. And Will Dissly has been a very reliable, underrated weapon for this team, seemingly just rising out of the ashes as a receiver when he was brought in to be specifically a blocker, which is perfect for Greg Roman's system and what he wants to run. But what did they adapt to? You put Matlock and Fisk in running situations and moved them around the field as extra blockers. And that was the spark that really helped get the run game going. So yeah, first half to second half, I mean, there's no comparison. It's lackluster. You have nobody catching the ball. It's the same problems that you've seen for the past several weeks in terms of man coverage. You're just not able to win. Your offensive line is letting people through. Justin Herbert is getting nailed. He's coming up limping. He has to go out for a play. The running game was non-existent in the first half until it did.
It was dead in the water.
And until Quentin Johnston started making plays, until Josh Palmer started making plays, until Stone Smart said, hey, I'll go out and I'll make a play. You need somebody to do that.
Yeah. They need Stone Smart. Like that's a big development.
That was an opportunity game for him. 3 catches. All 3 of them ended up going for first downs. Big time plays that kept drives alive. I guarantee you now you're going to see more of Stone Smart after that.
Do you see more DJ Chark? We can talk about it now. He has 1 catch.
Allegedly.
Next voicemail. 323-902-7586 is number to the Chargers Unleashed hotline. 2 more, Jake. We're rounding out here. About 5 minutes left here. If you have any last minute questions or comments, topics, put it in the chat. Next voicemail, Jake.
Sorry, hello guys. I was just gonna comment and say that it's important that a great offense is also a great defense, because it's important to sustain drives, keep your defense off the field if you're converting on third downs. So yeah, in the next off season, I just focus on more offense, just acquire an elite right guard or sign one via free agency or the draft, and just draft the best available tight end or in the draft or in free agency, whatever happens. Because I don't know if great adding more talent would really help the defense. Anyway, thanks.
Tight end we're talking about?
Yeah,
I mean, there's going to be a tight end that the Chargers have. So that's a position that's essentially been neglected for the better part of 2 years. And damn, it's a good tight end class to do it if you're looking to draft one. Obviously, everybody points to Colston Loveland out of Michigan because the Jim Harbaugh ties. But whoo-wee, that Trey Warren over there in Penn State's something special. Something special. Harold Fanta Jr. over at Bowling Green setting records. something special. If you're looking for a pass catching threat, tight end, you got some in this upcoming draft. If this is how you want to say, you know what, Will, next year we're going to bring you back to what, your bread and butter is. Occasionally a pass catcher, but we're going to have you predominantly more in as a blocker and assist the running game. And there's going to be a different tight end that is going to be catching passes. You have plenty of opportunities to find those in this draft class. Tight end class is a good class this year.
Forgotten Locale says a lot of the offensive signings this year have been abysmal compared to defensive moves. Let's think about that. So defense we could talk about, but for the most part, they've all hit.
I think it's a fair comparison. Outside of, I still feel that J.K. Dobbins, in terms of low risk, high reward, I think has been beneficial for you.
Incredible.
100%.
Yeah, they've nailed that.
Hayden Hurst, you're accurate on, given the fact that,
far.
DJ Chark, who
lost so far.
Yes, I get that. Bozeman
has not lived up to it.
That. Yes. So in terms of what you've done offensively, defensively, yes. But
Edwards.
I would say you've gotten more hits than you've gotten misses overall.
Overall, 100%. The hits, I think, on offense are what? Will Dissly, J.K. Dobbins, TBD on Gus Edwards. Is that it for offense? But defense, he's right.
If you're just talking free agency selections, yes. But then you look at Joe Alt, Ladd McConkey. Offense.
Yeah,
offense
draft
home runs.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. But man, the defense, they're batting a solid 800 on this. Max says, these fans are struggling after this L. Yeah, for sure. Chiefs made 5 trades at the deadline. Chargers 0. Not wrong. Not wrong. You saw a lot of teams who were competing go out and make their team better. Chargers didn't. Last voicemail, Jake. Oh, Jeremy. All in all, the offense, all in on offense this draft. Only defender would be a Bosa replacement. Bosa replacement, a corner, interior defensive line. There's a lot of positions that still need to get fixed.
And whether or not you were talking that this is interior defensive lineman, or are you talking about an edge player in the first round of the draft, there's going to be plenty. And it's high stock on the players that are going to be available. Defensive line and edge, that's going to make up a majority of the first round. I think you address anything along the defensive line, I don't care, regardless of position. I think that's a good place for the Chargers to start, because those positions have been neglected that high for so long. With the exception of Tuli, I think you need something more in the interior, because it's been neglected there for many, many years before Ortiz was here. And Telesco didn't value the interior of the defensive line either. So I think you need to get a lot more beef in the middle of that, especially when you've seen over the last couple of weeks, teams that have stronger offensive lines, especially in the middle, they're able to push the Chargers back, and they're able to get these 6, 7, 8 yard runs and live in the second and third and shorts. So you need to get someone up there who can eat, who could take up the double teams, who can help create pressure for the edge players coming off. So I've said this on numerous shows in the past, that I think that you spent your first and your second round pick on offensive lineman and a wide receiver. I think you're going to flip the mentality earlier in the draft, and I think you're going to address the defense. I think you have to.
Ivan Flores said, why did Cam Hart stop on the blitz? Conspiracy theories? Actually, no, I'm actually happy that he did. And again, that's one of those take the cheese moments. And he didn't take the cheese. He could have easily, when Patrick Mahomes does a pump fake, jumped in the air, Cam Hart out of position, Mahomes skirts around, scrambles for first down. Yes, he didn't get the sack, but he stayed contained and kept Mahomes there. That was the right play. So no, I don't think there's a conspiracy theory there at all. A lot of folks talking about the draft coming up. Everyone needs to be at the Bucs game. Bolt up. I will be there. Who's all going? Harbaugh likes his beef at the lines. Absolutely. Can't wait for another Joe Ortiz draft. Amen.
Yes, indeed.
Amen. The running back draft, says HH4. Last voicemail, Jake. Get through our feelings here. We've done a pretty good job. I feel like we've run through these pretty fast. Appreciate folks. I did not get a chance to pre-screen these. You have made me feel better about that decision. Only one has been questionable. Let's see if we can get out of here.
Arguably the best one in Chargers Unleashed history. I like it.
Hey! Ah! All I know is pain.
Pause it real quick, Dan. Is it about to get one-upped right now?
I don't know. It might.
Keep going.
Hey! Ah! All I know is pain. Hey!
I'll play it again one more time.
Ah! All I know is pain.
The whisper at the end. Oh my gosh. I'm literally crying right now.
Oh my God.
I needed that.
It hurts.
That needs to be on loop for the rest of the season.
Oh,
whoever
man.
you are a saint and a scholar and a gentleman.
So good. Oh my God. That's pretty much the entire Chargers fan base inside. Anything that you're sitting at your desk at work and you just want to say something to just get it all out. Listen to that voicemail because that's everything from in here. Oh my God, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So good. Chargers fans, thank you for the voicemails. You did not disappoint. That was an epic way to close this one. Mack says we need a soundboard for these voicemails.
Dan, I think you've got that on reserve somewhere. I mean, Dan Wolkenstein does run the Chargers Unleashed hotline, so I'm sure that he's got a file on his laptop that probably is just titled LOLs.
FML, LOL.
Yeah.
Good Lord. William Escobar with the last minute $5 donation. Bolt up, fellas. Gotta stay positive. These are all caps, by the way. First year of Jim. Don't forget, Ortiz can draft for sure. We got a great future ahead. 100%. Again, in the moment, it sucks. It hurt. It's pain. You're bleeding. As men, whatever that Harbaugh quote was, you learn from it. You move on. You rise again. One foot in front of the other. Man, that was a tough one. But again, perspective is key. The Chargers are not there yet, but they are getting there. And they're so much closer than they were this time a year ago. So much closer. So as much as this is frustrating, as much as this is painful, you would take this 100 out of 100 times. This Chargers roster is not as good as some of the dominant teams in the NFL, but their coaching is better than most. And they are bringing this roster that has so many holes up. A rising tide lifts all boats. That's what the Chargers coaching staff is. That's what Joe Ortiz is. Look at some of the moves that this team has made. We got Tony Jefferson balling. Marcus May out there doing crazy. 2 fifth-round corners going nuts. You got rookie wide receiver breaking rookie records for the Chargers. Joe Alt looking like an all-pro. No hyperbole. Like, this team is doing well. And you lost by one field goal with a black magic voodoo chip shot that doinked. And you lost again. It sucks. But damn. This team has the winning formula, and they are getting better. Get healthy. Get right. Get more consistent. Tighten the screws. And play at your best when your best is required. And this team can go to be dangerous. I expect this team to be in the playoffs. I expect them to win a football game in the playoffs. Get them healthy and let them taste that victory on the other side of this. Dangerous. And it's just the beginning. Just the beginning. Jake, we went through a ton here. A little long. Anything else? Any feelings we need to get out here before we turn the page to Tampa Bay?
I will say this. Doing this show, I kind of revert back to our infamous voicemail from just earlier in the show. The question was, how do we get through it as a fan base in pulling for this team? Moments like this. I sure as hell feel better than I did an hour and a half ago. And whether it's just getting an opportunity to vent, to talk to everybody in the chat, because I know everybody in the chat is in their feelings as well about this situation, about this team's future, about what they need to do. It is cleansing therapy, believe me. But it feels a hell of a lot different in talking about it this year with this coaching staff and this front office, as opposed to 4.5 years of talking about the same crap every single week. And Dan and I literally would just have the show written for us. You might as well have just called it Groundhog's Day, because nothing changed for 4.5 years. Dan and I would have to talk about, well, win or loss, what do you want to talk about today? Because it still feels like the same old damn result. It feels different now. And having shows like this and talking to you guys like this, it feels different. It's therapy. I feel better than what I did an hour and a half ago. Let's close the book on this. Let's go to Tampa Bay and let's make this team 9-5.
Better today than you were yesterday. Better tomorrow than you were today. That is the plan. That is the mantra of Jim Harbaugh and company, and we're going to live by it here too. Robert asks, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Great things are coming for the future of the Chargers organization. Keep your heads up, folks. That's a Kelly Clarkson reference. What doesn't kill you makes stronger. I like that. I'm killing it. Agree with Pappy. We beat Kansas City in the playoffs, Jake. You heard it here. Agree with Pappy. You heard it here, says Calvin.
I said if we happen to see them again in the playoffs, I want that game.
Yep.
I want that game.
Yep. Folks want, and you know damn well this Chargers team wants to play Kansas City again. They're open to the challenge. Jake, this has been fun. I feel better, honestly. I hope Chargers fans feel better because, man, those voicemails were amazing. Again, if you want to go ahead and be a part of the next show in the voicemails, leave us a voicemail on the hotline, 323-902-7586. Try to keep them short so we can get to a bunch of them. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a fun one. Appreciate all the donations, all the comments, all the contributions from everybody, and all of the support from all of you throughout. Hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment, review, tell a friend, phone a friend, whatever it is. You are the lifeline, the lifeblood of this podcast, and we appreciate it every single week. For Jake Hefner, you can find him at Jake T. Hefner on X, myself at Dan W. Sports. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get right for the Bucs game, and we'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.